Today, on Edge of Wonder, we take you to Disclosure Fest in Washington, D.C., where we met with former FBI agent John D'Souza, a.k.a. the X-Man. He'll share with us how the financial institutes are connected to the cabal, how the immigrant caravan could very well be a psyop, what entities and people may actually be working against the cabal, and who Q really is. Then, after this riveting interview, be sure to join Ben and Rob as they share their experiences from the infamous Disclosure Fest, including conversations with some old friends and some new ones, on this episode of Edge of Wonder.
Okay, so hey everybody, welcome to Edge of Wonder. We're here with John D'Souza at Disclosure Fest, and we have an opportunity here to ask him a few questions coming off of Above Majestic, which is really exciting. And John, how has the reaction to Above Majestic been since it published?
It's been amazing. It's #1 documentary on all streaming services across the board, #1 documentary in the country right now. And the response has been amazing, and it's really brought forward to people, to a new audience, a lot of these realities that we discuss all the time.
Yeah.
And it's really opening up a whole new world for a lot of people. So we're really happy about that.
Okay, so one of the biggest questions I have is, you actually, in Above Majestic, you talked a lot about finance and the cabal, right? And I'd kind of like to hear a little bit more about that. So the financial institutions are connected to the cabal. How are they connected to the cabal? Why is this a danger? And what else would you like our audience to know about that?
I want the audience to know that whenever they see like these big anti-American activities going on, like let's say these mobs that suddenly appear, out protesting American institutions or whatever, or protesting people in general, unruly, violent mobs, or you see unruly, violent squads of people coming to our border. All of those activities are financed by your money through the central banks, because the central banks have all the money. They are the dynasties that have all the money. George Soros and all of these dynasties, they have that money, and they have unlimited funds to finance these mobs that are attacking our borders right now. Each one of those people, they have to pay them $7,000, every single person. And that's just to start.
So hold on one second. So you're saying basically that so that these mobs, the people coming over, are actually, it's like a psyop, what you're saying, right? Like they're trying to get all these people over?
It is like a military invasion, pretending to be an organic social activity where all of these people suddenly decided they don't want to be in their countries, and now they want to be in America because of economic conditions. That's all theater. That's all theater. This is a well-financed attack, asymmetrical attack against the United States, financed by George Soros and all of the NGOs that have our money through the central banks. And they have this operation. People are estimating conservatively that this whole operation, this alien invasion against our borders, had to cost conservatively maybe $200 million. If you include the buses, they're using luxury buses. Jeez. I mean, there's these luxury models of buses that are like $500,000 each. And it's enormous costs involved with this. It's incredible. And people need to know that we are all paying for that through the central banks. That's why the nationalist forces are getting ready to throw off the central banks very soon. And that's something that's way overdue.
So like what would that be? Like what groups, what's working against this system, the cabal that's been set up for, I mean, probably now like 150 years. Yeah. So talk a little bit more about like the group that's working against this to try to,
the groups that are working against this, that are, for instance, right now, the Fed is raising interest rates when there's absolutely no reason to.
Right.
They're doing that as a direct attack against Trump and Putin and all the nationalist forces that have gotten together and are working to throw off the cabal. And so they're doing shenanigans in the stock market also. at a time when that shouldn't be existing. They're trying to strike back against the nationalist forces. And of course, at the tip of those nationalist forces is Donald Trump. He is the top guy in that group. But there's many, many others. There's leaders in Austria, there's leaders in Europe even, that are taking over from the globalists. And these groups, these people are all working together, and they're working towards a reset of the central banks to get rid of them. And that stuff is so complex that we don't even know what it's going to look like when they do this reset, but it is coming.
Okay, pass the baton here. So I have a good question for you, actually. Q Plus recently posted about Whitaker thanking Sessions for basically all of his work and all of that. I kind of wanted you to just drop a little bit about what's going on with that. Tell us a little bit about it.
There's been a lot of evidence because of context that Q Plus is actually Donald J. Trump. All right, and you'd have to just look at the context and really go deep into it to see what that's all about. But it really looks like Q Plus, which is a separate entity from Q, is actually Donald Trump. And Donald Trump just dropped after Sessions' resignation and all that, the theater that he fired Sessions and he did all that, there was a drop from Q Plus that said, to Sessions, said, "Thank you for your service. We will not forget your sacrifice," which is a really weird thing to say to somebody that you just fired, supposedly.
Right.
And so it really looks like this whole firing of Sessions and bringing in this provisional attorney general was all a theater. And that Sessions has been doing a service somehow by resigning himself, what do you call that? Recusing himself from the prosecutions and laying low and now being fired in humiliation. It looks like he's probably going to be brought back later, maybe as the judge of the military tribunals that are ultimately going to be prosecuting these sons of that we all know in the cabal.
So,
boom.
Yeah.
I just wrote a post on our blog on edgeofwonder.nyc actually, just specifically about this, talking about Jeff Sessions and bringing in Whitaker. Now, from my understanding, Trump wanted the deep state and the public to like Sessions. Right. Now it's like, let's bring in this young guy, and he has like his photo on his Twitter site, like lifting like weights that's like twice my weight. From my understanding, this is what happened with the protest then, because it's like you're bringing this younger guy in who looks like he's just gonna go Rambo style. And then I saw this quote that said, "This guy hates Hillary more than you do." So it's like, wow.
Yeah, it looks increasingly like this was all an elaborate setup, and Whitaker is being put in specifically because he's not a political appointee or even a political figure. They can't do anything against him. He's just a temporary appointee, and yet the guy's a bulldog, and it's possible that he has been brought in to clean house with the drops of the sealed subpoenas during this entire period, even connected to the military tribunals. And that's what it looks like right now.
Well, actually, I think we can end it right now because John is actually on one of the tables, right? He's getting ready to speak in front of everyone. So we're going to call it here, but we really appreciate your time, John. Really love having you around.
Great being with you guys.
Yeah, come anytime, come on the show.
Is the greatest. They are the best at what they do, bar none. Edge of Wonder are the best there is. No one better. No one
so
better.
much, man.
Actually, yes, guys, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Until next time,
we'll see you out
on the edge.
Awesome. That was awesome. Thank you.
Disclosure Fest was awesome. We didn't really know what to expect, but it was really great to see the amount of people that showed up and how many people had stories about how they came. Like, they just decided the night before to come because they knew they wanted to be there.
The experience of the meditation, the group meditation that everyone did, I mean, it was pretty cold. I was just wearing a t-shirt, like meditating, because the energy was just, I felt the energy was just so strong.
There was all kinds of people from the community, like the influencers in the community that all came and they were speaking at Disclosure Fest, and just hearing them speak and learning even more about what's going on with Disclosure, all of that stuff was just pretty awesome.
My highlight actually was really meeting the fans. But aside from meeting the fans and interacting with everybody and just having them come up to us and talk to us, just hanging out with like some of the main people there, like Laura Eisenhower, Jordan Sather, Corey Good. You know, we just started talking to them, and it was just a really kind of amazing experience overall.
There were a couple of highlights for me, I think. One, I just found it really interesting interacting with some of the influencers in the community that I haven't interacted personally with. Like when Corey Good saw me, he just came up to me and gave me a big hug. And it was really nice to see how genuine people were there, you know, like, because usually you're on the other side of like of a phone call or something, or you're communicating with them through email, but this was like in person. You got to talk to them, you got to joke around with them a little bit, and also hear personal stories of theirs. So I think that was definitely one of them. The other one was, I was completely blown away at our fans, actually. Like, I mean, last conference we were at was Contact in the Desert, right? We probably had about 7,000 subscribers then, but now we have like 165,000, something like that. And I was just shocked to see how many people recognized us and how many people were approaching us, and like, they were just really shocked to see us there. And, you know, obviously Ben and I aren't really used to that, so we were kind of like, whoa, like, wow, you know? And it was pretty amazing, yeah.
I think the best thing out of everything that happened was meeting our fans, because this was really the first time that we met our fans in person. So coming here, it was just phenomenal.
We heard a lot of things that day, and I really enjoyed the panel. So the panel was when everybody got up there and Jordan was asking every single one of the panelists questions, and everyone kind of got to give their own little 2 cents on what was going on right now, and hearing kind of where we're all at in the disclosure community. And what was so interesting about it was that every single one of the speakers, right, there was a thread through each one of them. You know, like, even though a lot of them are talking about different things, what interested me most was that this is how we can understand the truth, right? Is when you have multiple people who are coming out and telling their story, but somehow they're all connected in one way or another, either historically or specific things going on with ETs or disclosure or the spiritual aspects of these things. Having them all connect was kind of like validation that this is really something that's going on, and that more and more people need to wake up and kind of learn more about the true situation in society actually is, you know.
Just hanging out with them was just really, really cool, especially Laura Eisenhower. It was just an amazing experience, like talking to her, and we're really connecting with these people on a much deeper level. Just the conversations that we were having, and the understanding that what's happening with disclosure overall. A lot of new people are starting to come out and really talking a lot about what's happening in the disclosure community, how it's really affecting them. I think one of the best experiences overall was meeting this little boy named Sean. He was an 11-year-old boy, and he just ran up to me and was just like, "Oh my gosh, like, I've been watching you. I've been watching every show of yours. I'm like one of your biggest fans." And he was like this 11-year-old boy. And I was like, do you want a photo with us? And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So I was like, "Well, let me go get Rob."
And Ben comes around the corner from the tent and he's like, Rob, come here." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, what's up?" So I go around the corner and he's with this little boy, and the first thing I notice is that his hand is bright orange. He had his hands in some Cheetos for like 2 hours or something like that. So when I went over there, I just gave him a big handshake, got a bunch of Cheetos on my hand, and gave him a big hug. And then we got to talk to him about all of the different stuff that he's been watching. And we were really shocked to find out that it's his favorite TV show.
And Rob's like, "Do you watch your Deep State series?" And he's like, "Yeah, I watch everything." And
he doesn't really watch that much other shows, or if he does, it's not as much as he watches Edge of Wonder. So it was like really awesome to interact with him and his mom and his brother.
I've never encountered anything like this before.
It was just so funny. It was great.
And we can't thank our fans enough. I think our fans, we're here because of our fans. We have the best fans in the whole world. I think that with the current state and the truth, I think next year, 2019, we're going to see some really, really big things happen. There's kind of like this cosmic timing that almost happens, where when there's a shift in the overall situation of the world, or of consciousness, I should say, it's almost that some things line up and then people naturally step forward, either whether they're called to step forward, whether they have visions that they need to come out, or just some ideas that they have. And I think because of this, and more people are talking about disclosure, more and more people in the world are getting into this. Like more media are reporting about like UFO, different phenomenon or whatnot.
People that have been really, really hardcore in following the media recently, I've seen them react to some of this new information coming out. People are actually not able to, kind of call everything superstition anymore.
And I think that overall, globally, there's this mass consciousness awakening where people are starting to think about these things. Maybe they thought about it here and there, but now it's like it seems to be more prominent in their thinking. It's like, what is really happening? Is there really a disclosure? Does all these things exist? And I think more and more people are searching for the truth. And as people are searching for the truth, there's like a natural thing where more and more channels, people, just more and more things are talking about all these different events happening. And I think that we're seeing this global phenomenon where the disclosure is going to be from the people.
I mean, you're not just talking about 1,000 people, you're talking about millions of people who are actually waking up to the truth. They have no choice because it's all getting out there now, right? So this is a gradual thing that's happening, and then more and more people are going to be looking for this kind of truth, and that is why I feel like the Edge of Wonder is so important, is so that there is a place that people can come where they can learn about all of this stuff and have the actual truth, or at least, at the very least, ask questions about what that truth is.
It's going to put pressure on governments, on different organizations and all kinds of things that they'll be forced to start releasing things about disclosure. And I think we're going to start seeing that happen next year especially.
What we've been hearing in history books, what we've been reading all of our lives, a lot of these things are just such a small part of the truth or the actual events that took place. Because if we're just robotically listening to what the mainstream media is telling us, we're not actually doing our jobs. Like we really need to take some time and learn more of this stuff. And that is why Disclosure Fest and the disclosure community is so important, is because it's our responsibility to tell those people these things and hope that even one person waking up is such a huge deal,
It was just an amazing experience, and I can't wait to go to the next event for sure.